but are performed by eminent Croatian and foreign artists. Please welcome for his keynote on ethical governance in digital education, the third President of the Republic of Croatia, His Excellency, Professor Ivo Josipovic.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be with you today. It's one beautiful project that you started, and I hope I will be a good collaborator in this project. So I would like to speak a little bit shortly about ethical approach in education and in business, and what would I like to teach about in next period. Firstly, we have to have on our minds ethical approach during education. What does it mean, education? It's not just remembering facts. It's also accepting values. That's very important. We have to teach our students about values, and it's very important. I will speak a little bit more later about some of values I would like to stress, especially having in mind my expertise. Secondly, of course, it's a relation between university, school, professors on one side and students on the other side. It's very important to be aware that we have to afford equal opportunities for students. That means not only technical possibilities, similar technical possibilities to everyone, but to take advantage of new digital surrounding. That's very important. To be capable to include young people, in spite most of them knows much more than we do about digital issues, but we have to connect business issue, learning, and digital surrounding to help them. Of course, it's also connected to specific type of communication between professors and students. Probably we can speak of some kind of code of conduct during communication, how to communicate with our students and how they can communicate with us and among themselves as well. That's very important. It should be appropriate, and we have to obey and to respect also cultural differences. We are a multicultural society. We are people coming from all over the world, so we have to know about each other and to respect each other, and that's very important to me, as well as gender equality. Definitely, in many countries today, there are many issues connected with gender equality and non-discrimination. It's very important to support our young lady students to be not only equal, but to be competitive with male colleagues due to differences produced by specific cultural and historical development during human history. But we are equal, we are one, and we have to show it during our educational process as well. Then we have to teach our students that digital era offers really many sources of knowledge, but also to be aware that not all of them are good ones. There is very old wording connected to digital world and computers, garbage in, garbage out. So it's very important to understand that we should be very cautious about different sources of knowledge we can find on internet or whatever, and to be critical about them as well. That's also part of our role in digital education. But also not only educational process, but also the substance must have ethical approach. So we have to learn to teach how to apply some very important ethical principles, not only in the education, but after education as well. Firstly, what I would like to communicate to students is a relation between business and the government. What does it mean? What are the areas when business and government are going together, and in which areas they are confronting? And what should be the proper distance between business and the government? Then also, I think that everyone who is now involved in business, especially big business connected to governmental issues, big bridges, public procurements, and the other, should be very, very sensitive to conflict of interest. Conflict of interest primarily on the side of politicians, but also it can be visible on side of business people. So conflict of interest is a very important concept in modern and democratic society, and I think students should be informed about this. Very near to the concept of conflict of interest is corruption. Unfortunately, corruption is very widespread all around the world, especially in new democracies, in developing countries, but also in very developed countries as well. There are many international organizations fighting corruption all around the world, and nearly all countries are willing to declare that they are fighting corruption. They have provisions in constitutions, in criminal laws, and whatever. But in practice, many structures in many countries are subject to corruption, unfortunately. So, but it's not only a problem for the government and for respective society, it's also a problem for business. Incredible amount of money is lost in labyrinths of business issues in many countries. So the other important issue is socially responsible business, SDG, and the other very important goals declared not only by global community through UN or some other international organization, but also local important issues. It can be ecological, it can be energy issue, it can be whatever, but it's very important how to have an appropriate approach to this very important and socially sensitive issues that we call it in general socially responsible business. Then very important issue is also relation between employer and employees. We have to take care about fairness. Fairness is very important, and we should not teach our students that it's good and or it's acceptable to have in some poor country kids paid by $1 a week to produce some, I don't know what, I will not mention any company, but that's something that's not I think a business that we would like to have from our students. Then finally, a very important issue is copyright and other aspects of intellectual property. It's very important because there are some societies not being sensitive to intellectual property. Intellectual property, some patents or copyright matters are product of intelligent people contributing to society, investing in copyright, but there are some people willing to steal it, just to steal it. And I think we should teach and we should tell to our students, please don't steal knowledge and the results of work of the other people. It's very important because some economies are really suffering from copycats and the other people not willing to obey and to respect the work of the others. So during education, students should also know that they are part of society. They are not isolated from society, from local society, from the state when they are incorporated, and also for global society. The part of good business is knowledge about our differences, about different cultures, about different religions, about different approaches to business, and of course to be adaptive to those differences, having always in mind general principles that should be and that must be applied in all situations. So that will be my try to contribute to this beautiful new school, and I'm very happy to be part of this beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. President, for these wonderful insights and this very comprehensive overview over the topic. I think that everybody was able to follow in detail each point of what you wrote, especially as pertains to ethics and the values which our business school is putting in right now. Now, I'd like to hand over to our next speaker, who will be talking about the new roles of business schools in the digital era. Our next speaker, Antonio Couto dos Santos, has held several offices in Portuguese governments. He was notably the Secretary of State for Youth, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Youth with Media Portfolio from 1987 to 1991, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, and the Minister of Education from 1992 to 1995. He was a Member of Parliament of Portugal between 1987 and 1991, and also from 2009 to 2015. He was also the CEO of a Portuguese business association from 1995 to 2007, chairman of the General Assembly of a media group, amongst many other management positions in organizations in a wide range of fields. Nowadays, he acts as a consultant in some areas of business, notably the environment, health, renewable energy, and several companies. He is the Vice President of APD Portugal, a business association of CEOs and directors of companies, and a board member of the WBAF Ethical Governance, Standards of Excellence and Quality Leadership Committee. Please welcome on stage His Excellency Antonio Santos to talk about the new roles of business schools in the digital era. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is a pleasure for me to be part of this excellent panel. And before I express my ideas about the theme, new roles of the business school in digital area, I would like to express my opinion concerning the digital transformation, because it's the base of my intervention, and it is in this base I believe that will be necessary to work with business schools. Digital transformation is more one question of the strategy than the question of the technology. In fact, there are technologies applied in other services in other proposals that under a digital strategy are going excellent results in some areas like education. With COVID-19 and the mandatory shutdown should lead schools and push the school system to online management software and digital solution to keep education going. So I would like to give some examples about the technology and digital platforms that are using with good results in education system, and they are a demonstration of one simple principle: first strategy, after technology. I would make reference for case. Online learning enlarged several students through digital platforms like LMS, Learning Management System, or after learning tutoring. Virtual reality augmented, increased the engagement of the learners and work well in high technical fields like medicine and military areas, or even learning difficulties such autism, gamification, using games elements to make learning interactive and to motivate and engage the students by incorporating game design as elements in education environments. AI. It is possible to have enabled data drivers decisions to increase efficiency and save costs, or improve memory retention and technical language. These are some technologies that give good results in education system because they assume before the strategy and after the technology. Concerning the theme, new rules of business schools, I would like to give some suggestions under the point of view that I said about digital. First, the business school must design clearly a strategy for digital transition concerning the target of students, concerns the course that you have, curricula, geographic area of the intervention, cultural influence, and also implement this strategy concerning these aspects. In practice, of the school needs to find the best way to scope, scale, and lead digital transformation, achieve education objectives without being extensive. It will be necessary. What our digital ambition? What the key stages? What leaders and team to engage? Second, the business school should develop a new area of the learning and training under the contents of the using of the technology must respect ethical values, privacy, and human rights. We know the most part of the leadership of the organizations don't have sufficient education training on emerging challenges that could increasing the risk with the technology. The business school should prepare investors, entrepreneurs, managers, and politician decision makers, why not, to understand the social and human impact of the technology in the life of the people in organizations. I remember here the code of the conduct of the WBAF, and this circle of the trust is one great reference. Third, business school should implement large cooperation and partnership with other schools and business organizations to develop digital projects of the education and business to reinforce the quality of the contents of the course of the interchange of students that will be easier in digital era. Partnership with the companies and the interchange of the students can give a contribution to have a good case study and to develop short specialized courses with the participation of the personalities that can increase the recognition. Fourth, in the digital area, the business school should have a department of the outreach and innovation, because the competition will be strong, and with digital, we don't have barriers. The world is flat and you are everywhere. The other side, digital reinforces the power of the social network and the business school should be prepared to react to this problem, mainly the fake news. The digital area, the digital and the IT create new specialized jobs, but at the same time create unemployment in other areas where some people have a good level of education and training. The business school with digital platforms could give us positive solutions for this problem, training new skills and promote the mobility of these learners to other geographic areas with other optimism. Rest two remarks: socialization and inequalities. We should ask if it is possible to socialize the young people with the digital or not. I believe yes. Depends of the programs of the business schools and the exchange that can do. Inequalities. I believe that we will have inequalities between countries and regions because the countries that can develop the digital transformation at the same level of the others could rest beyond of the other countries. But I believe the business schools could give some contribution. But my reference concerning the ethics should be the code of the conduct of the B and the cycle of the trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for these great remarks. And it's big obrigado to you for joining today. Now, I'd like to move on to our final keynote speaker of this ceremony before moving on to the actual opening of the business school. And our final keynote speaker will be talking about the role of business courses in the economic development of countries. Our Professor Hikmet Bajrami is a professor of marketing at the University of Pristina, and she began her political career, first of all, as a member of parliament, and then as the Minister of Trade and Industry from 2014 to 2017. She was then the Minister of Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation. And then finally, in June 2020, she started her term of office as the Minister of Finance for the Republic of Kosovo. Please therefore welcome on stage Her Excellency, Professor Hikmet Bajrami from the Republic of Kosovo. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear General Secretary, dear Presidents, Prime Ministers, Minister, dear Rector, dear professors, dear investors, angel investors, and dear guests. I feel really privileged to be part of this very important event. I would say after too many events and organizations, the WBAF opening the business school is one of the most remarkable events, and I feel really privileged to be among you and to take part at this event. So regarding the relationship and regarding the role of the business courses in economic development, I'm going to talk in a few coming minutes. Dear guests, as you already know, the world experience, but also the history and the literature on economic growth and development of the countries suggest that education in general and business education in particular are positively related to countries' development capacities. So business courses and business educations are considered as a critical determinant of the quality of the human capital and as a prerequisite for economic development. Moreover, business courses equip individuals with required capabilities and skills to engage in innovation and entrepreneurship and also in creating a business ecosystems that support startups and innovation, while also creating economic development opportunities at the national level, for which WBAF stands. A typical example, I would say, of a successful entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem is Stanford University. So if we take Stanford, it played a significant role on the birth of Silicon Valley. Stanford University's entrepreneurs have generated revenues of $2.7 trillion annually and have created around 5.4 billion jobs. A few years ago, a study suggested that if Stanford entrepreneurs would comprise the country, then it would be ranked as the world's 10th largest economy. So this is how important it is to have, top universities and top schools in order to help the ecosystem and help the entrepreneur skills. There are no innovative or entrepreneurial ecosystems that without a first-class universities. So if we want to make a Silicon Valley, we definitely don't need to have just one school, but we need to have one of the top handful in the world. So when linking education to ecosystem growth or development, research studies have used average years or schooling and the level of students' cognitive skills or the human capital in order to see the linkages and to provide us with evidence how important and how these factors have an impact in the country's development. Education, and especially business education, is suggested to provide individuals with opportunities, recognition, capabilities, thus providing higher changes in engaging in and successfully seizing innovative entrepreneurial opportunities. At the country level, it has been argued that higher educational rate for educational capitals provide better conditions for more entrepreneurial activities and provide the platform towards building an innovative ecosystem. Research studies also argue that education improves the chances of an individual to success in entrepreneurial ventures. In this regard, the role of business courses in creating a precondition for sustainable and long-term perspective economic development is inevitable. The number of high growth firms, those that create larger number of jobs in a country, is positively influenced by higher level of education. At the same time, education is considered as a long-term investment and valuable individual characteristic in the job market. I mean, we all know that individual wages compensation in the labor market usually reflects also their education attainments. Individuals with an extensive background on business courses, especially entrepreneurship courses, tend to start businesses with high potential returns, leading to higher job developments. As the opportunity costs of an individual with higher education levels are higher compared to those who have lower education levels, only high return venture might motivate highly educational entrepreneurs to start businesses. So as far as we increase the level of education of the people in a young country, we expect to have more innovative and more high return on investment entrepreneurial ventures. So in order to justify their careers, their career switch, new entrepreneurs with high business education level should realize higher returns compared to the entrepreneurs with less investment in business education. It is expected that individuals with high education level will most probably engage in high growth entrepreneurial where the gains exceed the higher opportunity costs of pulling out a wage in the labor market. Hence, it is understandable to expect to find a positive, significant relationship between business education and business entrepreneurial growth aspiration. Higher level of business educations are associated with higher firm growth aspiration and also economic development chances at the country level. Education has also lots of positive side effects. One of them is being able to build social skills and capital, which enables entrepreneurs to better mobilize resources successfully and run ventures. In innovation-driven development economies, every sixth young entrepreneur has completed a higher level of education compared to every 15th young entrepreneur in the developing countries. So this shows the best how important is for young people who are aspiring to go into the business world, how important is to engage in these courses and really be able to develop the kind of skills that the market is seeking for. In order to summarize, I mean, education has a positive effect on framing entrepreneurial growth and aspiration in both innovative-driven and efficiency-driven economies. I mean, these are common findings in research, but also in the practice worldwide history. The more educated entrepreneurs we have, more educated with business courses, are perhaps more alert to new market opportunities and better equipped with growth to grow their ventures that positively impact the economic development. Finally, business education is expected to improve individual skills and therefore perceived capabilities to run and grow businesses, which also have a significant influence in business growth and also countries' economic development. Therefore, I would say also that the government policy intervention in this regards would be to incentivize individuals to attend business schools, equip themselves with business education, and engage more actively in entrepreneurial activities. A government activity relevant to this would be to increase cooperation with higher education institutions, offering business courses and establishment of the university business incubators that would host growth-oriented entrepreneurial ventures. This improving economic prospects of the developing countries. So this is all for me. Once again, congratulations to you all. Congratulations to you Bybers for all the efforts putting on this. I'm really looking forward to my course, which is marketing skills in this in the digital area, which is very important, having in mind that all the businesses are operating in a highly competitive market, and having the consumers in the center and their level of satisfaction is really a very important factor in order to be able to succeed in a competitive ecosystem market. Thank you very much. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Minister Bajrami, for your great speech. And indeed, it's very important to promote entrepreneurship education. This was one of the main topics we had 2 days ago with the WBAF Global Startup Committee as well, which is one of the key areas of focus on this of our committee too. So rest assured that all the actions of WBAF are being aligned to be able to promote startups, youth entrepreneurship and female entrepreneurship around the world. So this concludes our keynote speeches, and I'd like to thank all of our keynotes for your great insights and also for participating and giving your time to participate in all of the courses of the WBAF Business School. And without further ado, I would like to now hand the floor to the WBAF Senator from Luxembourg and also the Secretary General of the WBAF Business School to be able to talk about concretely about the school itself. So I'd like to welcome my friend and colleague Fabrice Testa from Luxembourg. The floor is yours, Fabrice.
Thanks, Kevin. First, I need to share my screen. So let me know if you can see it. Is it okay? Okay. Yes. So yes, Your Excellencies, dear Executive Chairman, dear Rector, dear faculty members, dear investors, dear entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen, thank you a lot for attending this event. And I would like, yes, to give you a bit more details about the WBF Business School. So this is the homepage of the website. And I will show you when you click on welcome where you will go. First of all, yes, thanks for the leadership of Executive Chairman Berbas Altuntas and for his words, because yes, it's true that we need more education to make wise investments. So yes, we invite really investors to attend some courses. And also to Dr. Paul Donnet for his words, because it's true that in this fast changing world, we need more entrepreneurship at all levels, not only in startups, but also in corporates. And thanks a lot to our dear special, let's say, faculty members, because and for your kind words and your insight that you presented. This was very, very helpful. So thank you a lot for being part of this adventure of the WBF Business School. So when you enter into the website, you will arrive, let's say, in the lobby. And you will have access to different, let's say, rooms. There is the auditorium, which is where we are today, where there will be the special events. You will have, of course, the most important for, let's say, learners will be the classrooms. And it will be possible to enter in the specific classrooms and to attend the different courses. We have also the Rector office. And the exhibition hall, I will just explain in a minute. And we have something that I like very much, the WBF Cafe. And also there is a library that I will also explain just in a minute. So the auditorium looks like this. So it's for the ones that already attended in Istanbul, is really looking like the place in Istanbul. And there you will attend, let's say, all the big events like the ceremonies and other special gala events. The office of the rector, yeah, I think Professor Donnet is very often at the phone. He is always very busy. But yes, there you will have access to some special words, videos of Professor Donnet that when he wants to deliver some key messages for the WBF Business School. The classrooms, these are the most important part for the learners, because they will be able to, when they're after registering for a course, they will be able to attend a specific classroom, and there they will have the different courses, and the courses will be online and recorded sessions. Most will be online and live and in real time. And there will be case studies, there will be assignments, there will be eventually a quiz. So there will be different, let's say, we have a really mixed learning, let's say, methodology. And as you will see from the faculty members, it's really premium education. The digital library is also something very important because there it will be possible to find a lot of different publications. And I think Berbas Altuntas already mentioned there will be another announcement about a a series of new books from the WBAF publishing house. So there will be also videos of different faculty members, also of different, let's say, previous roundtables or events that were done by the WBAF. The exhibition hall, there people can find, let's say, some information about startups that are involved with WBAF or about sponsors that are supporting WBAF. We have also, as it was mentioned earlier, a corporate governance and SME support center. I will not enter into the details because my friend Fadi Sap, just in a few minutes, will explain about this corporate governance and SME support center, how it works. But I do believe that it's something really unique in a business school. And this makes, let's say, the WBAF Business School really unique. And yes, this is a special place, the Rex Cafe, the WBAF Cafe, for the ones that love the movie Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. Probably you know about the Rex Cafe. And we want this as a very nice place where people can meet either for informal, let's say, gatherings or for some specific committee events. So this will be the place to be between maybe the faculty members and the students. Our faculty members, we have more than 50 faculty members, but the first, let's say, curriculum that will be, we will start in March is we have 16 faculty members. I don't have time, unfortunately, to present properly each of them, but if you go on the website, there are some videos from each of them where they introduce themselves. So please watch the videos and you will see that we have really experienced investors, entrepreneurs, executives. We have global leaders that really teach at the WBAF Business School. And we are very proud to have you all on board. So thanks again for your involvement. So what are the courses? As it was mentioned before, our excellencies will be part of different courses. And thanks again for their involvement. And what we have, and you will see just in a minute, the different, let's say, courses that we have for you. There are certification courses, so courses that are a bit longer and give, let's say, a certification from the WBAF Business School. There are courses about business transformation. There are courses for executive for their development. There are some elective courses. And finally, there are also the qualified startup courses for entrepreneurs. So what does it look like? I'm not going to go into the details of each of them, but among the certification courses, there are the Qualified Angel Investor Certification Program, the Business Mentor Certification Program, also a program for non-executive board members, for the startup assessment. We already talked about the one about ethics. This is a very important one. We have also about business diplomacy, global women entrepreneurship, which is also very important regarding the focus also of the WBAF for 2021. And we have also about Chief Innovation Executive Program. And finally, one which is also very important about European entrepreneurship. Then we have courses about executive development, courses about business transformation. As you can see, there is a lot of courses about angel investors, which is a bit normal because WBAF is a World Business Angel Investment Forum. And there is really courses that go from what is entrepreneurship across the world till, let's say, tax issues or due diligence, etc. Something which is quite unique is English for fundraising courses. So this is a course for people that don't master English, in order that they master English in order to fundraise. And we think that this is very important, because sometimes it can be an issue for some people really to really pitch correctly, because they don't master, let's say, the language. And as I explained before, there is, let's say, the qualified startup courses about investment readiness, and then yeah, about knowing more, let's say, what investors know. So this is important for entrepreneurs. Then we have a lot of elective courses that go from design thinking to building innovation ecosystems. And there, again, there are some other courses about ethics, about business, about digital transformation, about strategic planning, etc. So as you can see, it's quite exhaustive, and we hope that one can really find what he needs. So all the programs are available on the website. So if someone is interested by a course, he can, of course, get all the details, let's say, of each course, and see really also the methodology which is undertaken in the course. The digital library, as I explained, there are some nice videos from Executive Chairman Beibars Altuntas about entrepreneurship. I really encourage you to watch them. And there are, let's say, past roundtables that we did during the spring and the summer. We had fantastic roundtables, mainly how to react for the pandemic, for the COVID. And I think if for the ones that had not the chance to attend, I really encourage you to show the playback. So as I said, we have 50 faculty members from 32 countries. This was the graduation during the last Istanbul World Congress. And we have already some certified, let's say, people. These ones from the first mentorship program done by Israel Pons. And we have also some graduates we have from the QBAC Plus, so for angel investor. And we have a course that has been already given to more than 100 startups, the investment readiness by Mayam Najafi. This is a very interesting course that is currently done. And WBAF Business School also already gave one-to-one mentorship to more than 100 startups. So this is also something that we will more do in the future, is to really provide mentorship. And as Chairman Altuntas mentioned, we will have in the certification program, each participant will have a coach, a mentor, and a consultant to really guide them in their career. Again, this is something quite unique, because I don't know any business school that has implemented such scheme. The WBAF Business School is based on a very serious and very detailed educational framework. So again, it's something that you can read on the website. I really invite you to go into the details of this education framework. You will see that it's pretty unique. And Chairman Altuntas already mentioned, let's say, the key points, like the study trip, for example. And last but not least, like on the WBF, let's say in all the different committees, the WBF Business School also adopt the code of conduct of WBF, and we really think that is very important to take the ethical governance, the quality leadership, and the standards of excellence into consideration. And we are supported, and thanks to all our sponsors, we are supported by very, very nice sponsors. And of course, all of this will not be possible without their continuous support. So thanks for that. So that's conclude my my presentation of the WBAF Business School. Kevin, I give you back the floor, and I invite, let's say, everyone that wants to improve, let's say, them and to continue their self-development to register to the courses, and it's really open now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary General Fabrice, for this great presentation. I think I was seeing the feedback we've been receiving on the social networks whilst you were presenting on YouTube and elsewhere. I mean, it seems that no stone has been left unturned in the preparation of the launch of this business school, and it's truly going to be amazing given the quality of the speakers, the faculty, of course, but also in terms of the organization and the virtual education hub. So really a huge, big well done for that work to everybody involved. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our next speaker from Lebanon, who will be speaking about the World Business Angels Investment Forum, Business School, Corporate Governance and SME Support Center, which you touched upon earlier. So I hand over to Mr. Fadi Saab from Lebanon. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gavin. Hello, everyone. I would like to start by really expressing my personal excitement about participating in today's event. While it is certain that WBAF occupies a leading position as the world's top organization within the angel investment ecosystem, however, this global yardstick for others to follow that has been diligently established over the past few years is today being pushed upwards even further. The opening ceremony of the business school is proof that we are witnessing yet another important paradigm shift that adds an additional superior benchmark onto our exponential growth with innovative activities. My hearty congratulations go to dear Bagbars, dear Paul, dear Fabrice, the prominent team of school instructors and collaborators, and to all WBAF's members on this great value-added achievement. Good luck and best wishes for success to everyone. Now back to the topic of my presentation. Let me start by sharing my screen, which for some reason is not being shared. Do I have permission to share the screen?
Yeah, I stopped mine, so you should be able normally.
It is not opening. For some reason, it's not opening. Never mind. I'll go through my presentation, which will be anyway sent to everybody and put on the website. So let me start by talking about what is governance. Governance is the methodology that influences decision-making at the leadership level of different types of entities. Whether they are government, official institutions, which is often referred to as public or good governance, private sector, which is often referred to as corporate governance, social organizations or communal associations, which is also referred to as good governance in some cases. Now, corporate governance is best defined as the system of rules, practices, or processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. It essentially involves balancing the interests of a company's main stakeholders, such as shareholders, senior management executives, customers, suppliers, financiers, the government, and the community. Governance practices set appropriate conduct and yardsticks for decision-making rules by which different choices are made or not taken or not taken, functional processes for implementing operational plans and executing actions, risk monitoring controls to address mitigation of threats and pursue opportunities, managerial methodologies for optimal administrative policies, accountability structures with checks and balances for performance evaluation, and behavioral guidelines for optimal collaboration between people and teams. In order for corporate governance to be able to successfully influence the setting of core objectives and facilitate the achievement of fundamental goals, it is imperative to implement a central systematic approach incorporating strategic planning, risk management, and performance supervision. So why is governance important? Because it will lead to widespread advantages that extend towards a general boost in economic growth on fair and equitable terms. For companies, they will benefit from the value-added gains of operating efficiently by avoiding mismanagement, avoiding corrupt practices, and a tarnished corporate image, by allocating resources properly for a successful attainment of desired objectives, by providing employment opportunities based on professional merits and competencies, by mitigating operational risk through transparency and accountability, by safeguarding the interest of stakeholders and increasing investor confidence, by improving access to capital flows from equity or debt or other financial resources, by facilitating a reduction in the cost of credit arrangements, whether it's debt or equity, and by responding to collective concerns for sustainable environmental and social progress. Our center has two parts, corporate governance and SME support. Why? Because SMEs generally suffer from the highly competitive environment that is further compounded by various obstacles hindering their growth and development due to limited internal ability to access financial services and appropriate funding, scalable markets, technological innovations, skilled human capital, institutional support programs, and efficient corporate infrastructures to improve productivity and quality controls. WBAF's objective is to assist SMEs in overcoming their operational challenges by providing tangible business tools and practical sustainability measures that extend well beyond delivering only academic education and offering conceptual training. This is why the Corporate Governance and SME Support Center will provide the following services. One, it will support the educational curricula of WBAF Business School by offering tailor-made courses and practical training programs in accordance with the specialization of different teaching departments. Two, it will propose targeted consultancy and advisory services to WBAF's global membership base, to the related general entrepreneurial community, and to the whole ecosystem surrounding businesses at large. Three, it will deliver corporate governance compliance programs and corporate governance audit certificates. Four, it will chair the individualized strategic advisory board, which was mentioned by Chairman Altuntash, which will be set up to benefit qualified WBS members from access to customized career planning opportunities. Five, it will provide personalized career development assistance to certified non-executive directors. And six, it will propose directorship advisory services to corporations looking to appoint non-executive directors. So in closing, this center will have three directors, one for education and training programs, one for consultancy and advisory services, and one for expertise and resources platforms. I look forward to the opportunity of working closely with all of you and hope that we will have a very successful year ahead of us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Fadi, for this great presentation and for this extra component in the WBAF Business School as well, which I believe will be of great use to all the students who will be joining moving forward. The next part of our program will be our global roundtable, which will have as a topic the impact of digitalization of education for world economies. And before I hand the floor to High Commissioner Israel, just a few operational points, because I know that many of you are watching now on YouTube and on Facebook, as well as on the WBAF website, the Business School website. If you have any questions for the panelists moving forward, please send them to me by email at kevin.hin@wbaforum.org. I will post that email address in the chat on YouTube and Facebook, as well as on WhatsApp. So once I've received these questions, I will forward them to Israel, our moderator. Without further ado, I will hand the floor now to the WBAF High Commissioner for Mexico, the faculty member of the WBAF Business School, and the honorary president of the Latin America Trade Association for Angel Investors, Mr. Israel Ponce. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. And first of all, with the whole due honors, excellencies, thank you very much for continuing with us, and I'm sure you will enjoy our panel. And to everybody who is connected around the world, hola from Mexico, to all entrepreneurs, angel investors, and those who actually found that it was going to be very interesting to join this session. And hopefully will be, especially now when we are moving on to a panel, which will be very, very interesting with my dear guests. And I'm just gonna quickly tell you the structure we're gonna do. Each one of them is gonna introduce themselves, a 2-minute to make themselves look very interesting and also very entertaining, because we know you've been connected for a long time now. So we're gonna try and keep it very active, very dynamic. I have set up some questions for my dear panelists. So without further ado, I will ask them to each one introduce themselves, and I will call them up. And hopefully you will all be preparing your questions for this great panel. And first of all, if I could ask His Excellency Manuel Gonzalez Sanz, Foreign Affairs for the Minister of Costa Rica between 2014 and 2018, to please introduce himself to the audience.
Thank you very much, Israel. In banking, I taught at the University of Costa Rica, both at the School of Law and the School of Business Administration. I was advisor to the Vice President of Costa Rica on relations with financial international institutions. I have been practicing law for 30 years, mainly on the field of commercial and corporate law. I was ambassador of Costa Rica in Geneva before the UN organizations, and then Minister of Foreign Trade of Costa Rica. And I was also Minister of Foreign Affairs of my country, where I focused a lot on developing the concept of economic diplomacy and taking advantage of our presence around the world to promote business, investments, and tourism. In a nutshell, that's what I have been doing. Thank you, Israel.
Thank you, Minister Gonzalez. I will now move quickly and swiftly move on to Professor Rudy Arnaud. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, President. So I'm what I call a pragmatician. This means I'm a pragmatical guy and an academician. So I have been in my life for 5 times Chief of Staff which gave me a mention in the Guinness Book of Records. I was Secretary General at the Department of Economy and Innovation. I was Director General of One Laptop Per Child Europe, which is a spin-off of MIT, dealing with laptops in South America and in Africa. And so I've done quite a lot of those things. On top of that, I'm teaching at the University of Ghent, and I'm teaching at the University of Nancy. And I'm now very excited when I see everything that's happening here. I'm excited to be faculty member of this fantastic project. Besides, I'm senior economist at the European Commission, dealing with financing. And it's from that objective that I have co-created, and I'm co-founder of the European Business Angel Network. That's my link with the Business Angel. And for those who are a bit, who know something about the Commission, I recently launched a new action to finance scale-up, which is called Escalar, which is focused on scale-up financing. So quite a lot, and I hope that this gives me enough baggage to give some nice courses, because I love to speak with students, and I think that everybody could be entrepreneurial. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Professor Rudy. We will now move on to Hans van Grieken, trusted advisor to the C-suite of 100+ companies worldwide. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to participate here today. My name is indeed Hans van Grieken. I have had technology research roles for companies such as Capgemini, Ernst & Young, Gartner, and recently Deloitte. So I've seen a lot of companies across the world. On the other hand, I've also been a business school teacher, 3 business schools in this country over the past 13 years, and a supervisory board member. And it always struck me that when I look at my own 2 children, well, they're adults now. The one is working for Google and the other one is a growth hacker in a startup, her own startup. It struck me that not everybody with a talent across the world has this same opportunity. And so I'm really excited to be part of this group to help other bright brains across the world to determine their own destiny or disaster, but hopefully the destiny.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Hans. And last but not least, we will now leave the floor for Boulain Senver, founder and honorary chairman of the Center for Ethics. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I started my career in London as an auditor in Arthur Andersen. I worked 11 years for Arthur Andersen, and I was given the audit of banks, and I audited some 25 banks, and I became a bank expert, and then I was hired by another bank. I acted as a CEO of a very big bank in Istanbul, and also acted as a chairman of a bank also in Turkey. I was the chairman of AmCham, Istanbul, Turkey, American Chambers of Commerce in Turkey, Istanbul, and also acted as the executive committee member and also the treasurer of European Council of American Chambers of Commerce. I'm teaching in 3 universities at present, in Bosphorus University, Istanbul, Bilgi University, Istanbul, and İstinye University in Istanbul. I'm very happy that the 2 keynote speakers spoke about ethics. So ethics is important. I'm teaching banking, finance, and business ethics courses in the universities.
Thank you very much for that introduction. It's each one of my panelists. And I will just make a couple of points right now, just to bring this into context. We have had some great speakers today. I'm very much aware that the whole context about education online and further education and skills acquired of it has been very important, and you have been listening to it very much. But just let me give you a couple of little pointers of information. What has happened this year with online education? There is a website that has published, that's called Coursera, that has published that in 30 days after the pandemic has started, they closed over 10 million enrollments onto their courses. What does that mean? It means that the actual people are looking for for how to further develop their skills. Obviously, these 10 million enrollments are into all sorts of courses, which is a 644% uptake on online education. This leaves us with a very, very much a lot to think about as to why are people actually coming online and looking for education or further education. And also the micro courses have gone up to 40% month on month around the world. So these are shorter courses that get done in weeks and where you get a certification. So that's what is happening out there. Now, let's go back to our panelists and get a couple of questions to each one of them. And obviously, we start getting questions from you, the audience. Please participate, which will make this even more interesting. And we'll talk about what you want to know from our panelists. But to start right now with Minister Gonzalez, the first question that I have for you, and I will read it now. What challenges are people facing to have access to education nowadays?
Thank you, Israel. What an interesting topic, education, and what a broad concept. I think the concept of education is undergoing a process of redefining. Everybody in different jurisdictions can have different concepts of education. And I think the challenges that education is facing all over the world is bridging the gap, not only from the digital perspective, but bridging the gap between rural and urban education, between private and public education in general. Those are great challenges. Challenges that are people facing in particular are the cost of education, of course. The tuition cost has not been going down despite the fact that a lot of changes have happened in the world caused by the pandemic. I think a lot of people are dropping schools as well. A lot of people who were attending schools are not going back to schools in the new normality, let's say. And that is impacting all over the place. And the main problem is that in the very near future, that is going to pass a bill. That's going to pass a high cost, because people dropping schools because their families cannot support their education anymore, because they cannot find financing to go and have access to education. And we'll be looking in a few years for unqualified jobs, and that's going to have a snowball effect, putting a lot of people outside of the qualified job market. And that's one of the results of crisis. We lived it here in Latin America in the 80s with the external debt crisis and the oil crisis and a lot of economic crisis that we have been going through, and that has excluded a big portion of young people with a lot of time to contribute to the society, to live formal education. Nowadays, there is not everybody, discussion going on whether formal education, having titles, is still important, or is more important just to have knowledge and practical knowledge. I still believe that formality is still important, that people should get formal degrees. One of the aspects that a lot of students are impacted in the current situation is that they don't have the benefit of being in an academic environment, to have more accessibility to professors and to construct this network of classmates for the future. Yes, it may be easier to attend classes online, but it also requires a lot of discipline from the students to do so. So there are a lot of disruptions going on, and somebody said, I think it was a former president of University said, I think we should try ignorance, right? And that's something that everybody has to keep in mind. I encourage the students of all different jurisdictions around the world, regardless of your status, regardless of what kind of studies you want to pursue, to continue with education. Don't drop off. And as they say in real estate, it's about location, location, location. Well, in human talent and human development, is about education, education, education. Thank you, Israel. I know we have limited time.
Thank you, Minister. Amazing, amazing content that you're sharing with us. And if it is about education, education, education, then I will move to my panelist, Professor Rudy. Why should we digitalize education?
Well, thank you for the question, Israel. First of all, we discussed, and Professor Parami said, it's important because education means entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship means education. I could even add incubators and hackathons on that, and you have all this kind of virtuous circle, which makes that education is at the center. And now going back to the question, why digital education? Because the digital one is making a kind of jump and will allow everybody to have access to education. It will, of course, oblige governments to invest, and because most of us think that broadband is normal, well, broadband is not normal. In certain parts of the world, there are only 20% of the people who have broadband. In Europe, the average is 80%, which means that still 20% don't have it. And if you look from the economic perspective, if the penetration in broadband increases by 10%, you create an economic growth of 1.4%. So if I can use the words of my friend Baibars, Mr. COVID can help us here to make really this revolution and to make that the COVID makes that it goes faster. We invest more in broadband and we allow the digital revolution, which of course is the most important in education. So there's the economic argument. There's of course, secondly, the demographic and democratic argument. We know, for instance, in some regions that if there's no place in schools, that we give priority to the boys. There have been some scandals a couple of weeks ago. Well, if it is digital, we should not say, is it boys first or women first? Everybody can do it. There will be a social divide that is going to get narrow. We'll have a regional divide, as was mentioned before. Every region can develop to digital education. And finally, I think we all love the planet. Look, we are all sitting here together and everybody listening to us. Can you imagine that you all had to take the plane to come wherever to have our meeting, what the ecological footprints would be? So democratic, ecology, economy, this is, I think, digital education is a win-win-win situation. That's why I'm so happy to collaborate with this project.
Thank you, Professor Rudy. So those are great insights. And I'd like to move over to Hans. Hans and I were exchanging notes, and he mentioned to me that he feels very passionate about joining the WBAF Business School as a faculty member. And I would like to know why.
Yeah, so to give you an idea, building on Rudy's remark, I visited 22 countries last year. So I'm one of those fly-arounds. And it struck me that those times are just over. We really need to do things differently. And to quote Baibars' remark, it's not just about financial inclusion, which our Dutch Queen makes a big point on, which is also in support of what we do here, but also digital inclusion. And so I feel strong about sharing knowledge that work across the world. And also very important, I feel any economy should reap the benefits of digitization and not just the Western world. And so I believe that all of us collectively have a lot of insights to share. And also some of the pitfalls that, let's call it, the developed world has already taken and that you shouldn't take when you're in a developing environment. So the combination of the tools that we have and the curriculum should do right. Now, just on my course, because I could imagine some of you think this is on technology operating models. That's not what you would associate with ethics and with some of the other topics that were discussed. But I truly believe that the digital environment in which startups prosper to a large degree favors environments that are digitized themselves. As Paul Donnet will agree with me, the infrastructure, technical infrastructure will make a lot of difference. The financial infrastructure, but also public service organizations and how they use technologies and bring new startup technologies to life. So in other words, I hope to contribute that the technology operating models that companies use in order to really move towards the scale they are taken into consideration as well. Because there are many, you know, the move to agile, the move to cloud, the importance of data, AI, all these things together can make a huge difference, and some countries can frog leap forward because they don't have to take the mistakes that some earlier adapters already took.
Great, thank you, Hans. And I will now move my next question to Mr. Sandberg. And what will be the major effects of digital transformation in universities? I think we have all at some point questioned these ourselves in the past few months, but it will be great to hear what your vision is on this. You're on mute.
You're on mute. Bülent, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Israel, I remember a good saying which says, if you make a 1-year plan, plant rice on your farm. If you make 10-year plan, plant trees on your farm. But if you make a plan for 100 years, invest in educating your children. So education is a long-term process, and we should be able to cope up with the changes which are going to take place in the next 100 years. So it is really very important that we try to understand what is happening in the world, what will happen in the world in future, and then invest in education accordingly. I have been teaching banking, finance, and business ethics in universities for many years. We are now in a transition period in education sector. One age is closing and the new age is opening. The new age may be called edu-digitalization. Digital transformation became a necessity in education. If it were not for COVID, we will still be working on digitalization projects in the education sector. COVID speeded up digitalization in education. Some faculty members think digital education cannot be as effective as face-to-face education. This may be true if digital education is made as a copy and paste of face-to-face education. If faculty members try to use digital platforms as if they are making face-to-face education, students may not fully benefit from such implementations. Digital environment has different tools and capabilities. At present, educators are trying to learn the digital environment and develop their skills in using the new facilities of the technology. Digital education is not sitting in front of a computer and lecturing to students using Zoom, Adobe Connect, or other video platforms. It is completely a new way of education. I want to summarize the effects of digital transformation, saying that the new era, education era, will be mainly using digital platforms as a tool, but what is inside that tool will be more important than the tool itself.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Sandberg. That's definitely great insights we have had from this first round of questions. And this is the level of, apart from our guest, Minister Gonzalez, you are starting to hear the content and the knowledge that is being delivered by members of our faculty. And with that in mind, I will keep extracting more knowledge from them. Minister Gonzalez, my next question to you is, and from our previous panelists, this will be quite interesting to hear your vision and your answers. Is there a real advantage in continuing education at the graduate level today?
As I said before, I think that's there is a lot of discussion going on whether or not formal certificates or degrees are still important versus just having the knowledge and the practical skills and the background to prove your experience. I think that in that field, we still need the formality of well-recognized degrees by reputable institutions. That is still confirmation of the level of the institution. The recognition and prestige of an institution is not built from one day to the other. It means a lot. It means a lot. It reflects values, it reflects traditions, it reflects the approach to different problems in life, not just from business perspective, but also ethics, social responsibility, and having that seal of quality, let's say, it's still very, very important for a lot of students, for a lot of people. I think it is still necessary. It is still necessary. There is a complementary approach. Of course, knowledge and experience is important, but it has to be complemented or actually based on formal education. So I do believe that having formal degrees is important. We should not disregard that. We should not disregard the effort that students and institutions make in order to provide the highest possible quality of education and knowledge to the students attending courses. I don't like the trend of undermining the importance of formal degrees that is going on in some places.
Thank you, Minister. And I will now like to make the next question will be the same to all three or the rest of my panelists. I think, as we all know, we have hundreds on this group that we are connected. We have hundreds of other people connected around the world. We are here at the grand opening of the WBAF Business School. You are lecturers at this business school. So I will leave you to tell us a little bit more about the course that you will be delivering, some of the content, and what the differences are between what you're going to do with WBAF Business School and everything else that you do as a lecturer, because it is important for our audience to gather the quality of the lecturers that has been chosen by WBAF Business School, by the chairman Baibers Altuntas, by your rector, Dr. Paul Duani. There is a lot that you're going to bring to the audience. So we need people to subscribe to our courses. And of course, the content of the courses is delivered by yourselves. So without further ado, I will now take it in the following order. We go with Mr. Sandberg first, then Hans, and then Professor Rudy, please.
Israel, this is a very good opportunity for the participants who will be participating to the school, the World Business Angels Forum's business school. I think one of the main reasons for that may be really summarized under, let's say, in my opinion, some 5 headings, which will really be the effect on the participants of what and how we're going to communicate in this environment. The first effect, it will really improve student experience. This is very important. Student experience is most important in all types of lectures and courses. At present, students are struggling to get most out of digital education, and students in the universities are more capable in using the digital technology than the faculty members. They are able to upgrade their learning skills very quickly. And in future, students will need less lecturing from the faculty, and they will develop more experience in searching, analyzing, evaluating, and learning from the digital environment. Therefore, it will be our duty not only to directly lecture as if we are lecturing in a normal university classroom, but try to make the students understand what we're talking about in order to motivate them to search for that information later on, analyze it themselves personally, evaluate that, and then come to solutions and decisions using their own skills. And there will also be a second effect. It will meet the changing student needs. Student needs are changing continuously at a very high speed. Changes can only be made on a digital platform to cope up with the student expectations. And digital transformation in education will make the change to happen more easily and quickly. So our duty as the faculty will be to understand what are these changes, and we should not be repeating ourselves from course to course, and we will be able to really upgrade, modify according to these changes, whatever we are sharing with our participants in these courses. And the third effect, it will generate efficiency. Efficiency is very important everywhere in life, including business, education, and digital transformation in education will increase the efficiency of not only the faculty, but also of students, staff, and all the involved institutions. And efficiency may be obtained by either increasing the quality of service or decreasing the cost of education and giving service to more students without any restriction of physical facilities. This is very important for the WBAF business school. We really don't have a physical facility problem. You have seen our physical facility. We are everywhere in the world, and we will have participants from everywhere in the world. And the fourth effect, it will positively affect growth. At present, growth is not easy task, is not an easy task for a university. But WBAF, a business school, will grow at a very high speed. In universities, it takes a lot of time. On the digital environment, many years is not needed to grow significantly. We may grow in a few months period, and then we will be even surprised with our faculty number of faculty members, number of participants. And the fifth and the last effect I want to share with you, it will improve the attractiveness of our business school. So it is our duty to improve the attractiveness of this school. In future, students will be judging the quality of a business school by its digital performance. What is inside that digital performance? The quality of faculty and the education content will always be important for the business schools. But if this is not coupled with effective use of technology, then quality in other areas could not be only a selling tool for a business school. Good quality of faculty will not shine if they are not polished with effective use of digital technology. Israel?
Thank you, Mr. Sen. Very great 5 points that you have made there. Over to you, Hans.
Yes, so the target audience of the series of courses that I've been invited to deliver is medium-sized and big organizations. So you could ask yourself, why is that in WBAF? The reason being is that in a lot of countries, particularly because of clients in the business environment or in government are not to the same level of digital enablement, it's really difficult for some startups to evolve. The second argument being that a lot of best practices that come from the startup world are very relevant to government, are very relevant to corporate organizations. And so I'm happy to say that Deloitte, my former employer, for whom I was the research leader for the EMEA region until recently, has granted me to use some of the material that I developed while I was still in that role. So basically what we're talking about is a model that starts from the premise that there will be new technology, whether you like it, whether you can afford it, it's irrelevant. There will be waves of new technology. And so to understand which of those ways to choose and to which of those technologies to master to make them business relevant or societal relevant in the case of government, that is a trade in itself. And so the whole model describes, on the one hand, the changing demands from the business side. We want technology to be delivered rapidly. We want it to be a successively process. In other words, it's a repetitive machine because there's so much innovation going on. And thirdly, by design, it needs to be scalable. That encloses also security, ethical considerations, and so forth. And so the course will try and explain to the students how these forces that are a total of 9 interlink in between each other. The one is the move to agile ways of working and cloud, DevOps. The second one is to create a portfolio of initiatives and not just one-offs. And how do you manage such a portfolio? How do you create an ecosystem of partners with whom you innovate? The third one is a really old one, but very important one. Who owns the tech? Is it the business or the tech side or somewhere in between? We call them the boosters because these are the things that you can control. And then the second category of 3 of these 9 shifts are the showstoppers. If you do not, let's say, take care of them. The one very important one is the configuration of the future workforce. As the minister already alluded to, some roles will disappear because they will robotize away, some new roles will evolve, and some existing roles will change. And it's really important to understand that as an organization. And the next one is the funding of the tech activities. That includes also risk and governance. The whole governance of the investment that is taking place. When you become bigger, that becomes a real challenge because whilst you're on your way, you are creating legacy, and that legacy needs to be taken care of. And then finally, a very big showstopper, which we will dedicate a whole course on, is the digital DNA, the culture and the leadership that comes with digital, let's say, entrepreneurial efforts, which includes, by the way, the ability and the willingness to take risk and to manage that risk. And then finally, on the right-hand side, all of this is triggered and fueled by technology. So the 3 topics that we will take a deep dive into is digital experience and digital reality, the move from digital experience apps to digital reality, augmented reality, what have you. The second one, the move from data to prediction and cognitive, which includes AI and deep learning. And the last one, the move, as has been mentioned many times now, from cloud to platforms, not just in education, the whole IT world is moving to platforms. So in essence, the course will help students to understand that these forces that are independent of individual technologies, that they are interlinked, and you need to understand how they are linked together, what causalities play out, and what decisions you take, both on the business side as well as on the tech side. Over to you as well.
Thank you, Hans. Well, we have had two great content shared with us. I'm actually already thinking on which one am I going to sign myself up. So over to you, Peach, Professor Rudy Arnault. This has turned a very exciting content of these two great lecturers, and I'm sure yours is also amazing.
Yes, I will try to convince you to subscribe to my course now. First of all, to come back to what has been said by Minister Gonzalez, I think we should stop by thinking, and he's right, we should stop by thinking, is it the one or the other? Is it now digital, or should it be on the spot in a famous university business school? You have to think and, because the market is there, the people are there, and as we all agree on, education is a solution. And then I want to quote the Rector Paul Dorme, who said, it wasn't the way we were working. That's exactly, we were not working like that. We were learning from 0 to 18 or 20 years, and then perhaps we did some executive MBA, and that was it. Now we should in our society always have this thing, and therefore I think what the initiative here, and where I really like to collaborate, because I call it, people know the red and the blue ocean. I'm not sure if you all agree with me, but for me that's the blue ocean, this World Business Angel Investment Forum University, because there it's linked to business angel, it's linked to investors, it's the entrepreneurial spirit, but at the same time it's content. So it's not competition with what exists, it's something new, it's something different. For me, I would call it the blue ocean. Perhaps that's why Bars calls the blue as the color of the university, but I don't know if this is true. Now coming back to my courses, mainly I give two very big courses. The one is about enterprise policy, and people could say, but what is it now? Is it enterprise or is it policy? Well, indeed, that's what I want to mention. We should stop by thinking there are two worlds apart. There's the private, which are the entrepreneurs, and there's the public with officials. Sometimes they're difficult to find, but two different worlds. No, let me give you two questions. We speak about venture capital. Do you know in Europe how much venture capital is public? 39%. So it's a public-private partnership. Second question, if you speak about business angels, and I give you a statistic, in Europe and America, it's more or less the same figures, 4% of all business angels are female. Is that a policy issue? Question mark. And I could go on like that. Take the whole issue about data protection, take incubators, and for all these topics, I want to try to explain to students how does it work together? Because if you know the mechanisms of policy, if you know the mechanisms of entrepreneurship, if those two words can be together, then we can really make a change of a mindset. So this is my course, education course about European entrepreneurship, and I hope that you can subscribe. And my second course is about financial management. And then financial management, again, I'm not going to explain what is an overdraft credit, but I want to explain financial management through case-based. So we start with the case and we start saying, how shall we solve that case together? So this course will be quite interactive, supposing that students can read some theory, can read some things which I'm going to give them, and then we'll discuss together what is the best solution, how to get to this best solution, but cases that can be understood by everybody, and based on that, a case means that you don't know something, but you know how to apply something. And I think that is very important for the future. So I hope that I convinced you to subscribe to my course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Arnault. Great. Well, whilst we've been entertaining ourselves and with all this panel discussion, great moderator for the whole of the session, Kevin, has been doing a great job on filtering the questions. We have loads of questions. Unfortunately, we are running short of time, so I will pick some of the questions. And I know that Kevin has a load more than what he's actually passed on to us. So thank you very much for filtering the questions, Kevin. And I will choose the questions and right at you, so I know the best person. So the first, yes, Fabers.
Any possibility to give me a few minutes to join the panel discussion. Because while listening to...
Of course, dear Chairman, I know you will want to also promote your course.
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Just a few minutes. While I was studying at the university, I joined a project of the faculty. As I told you, I studied at the Faculty of Education. There were two groups of learners. In each group, there were 12 students. English level of all 12 students were same. They took the same tests. Then they were given the same curriculum, same lecturer in two different groups. There was only one difference between these two groups. The first group, we didn't know why they wanted to learn English. It was a general English course, as a matter of fact, let's say. But the same lecturer, same amount of time, same test, same quizzes, same final exam, etc. Everything is same, except the student's goal. The second group, this group was a flight attendants group, and they had to join the interviews of Turkish Airlines 6 months later. So the second group had a goal. The result was the second group had, the mean of the group was around 85. This is what I remember after the exams and the quizzes, etc. The first group completed the course. The mean was 60. So this is what I learned while I was at the university classrooms. Putting a goal is a very, it changes many things in education. If participants have a goal, then they learn faster and better. If they don't have a goal, I think it is taking more time for them to learn. I think putting goal like entrepreneurship, I mean, establishing your business, becoming an angel investor, becoming a compliance officer, becoming an innovation chief officer, or becoming a certified expert on European entrepreneurship policies, or becoming a non-executive board member, a business mentor. While preparing these courses, that was always in my mind. We had to put goals for participants very clearly. When you fix the goal, they are able to benefit from the education, from the lecturer, from the curriculum, from the school better, faster. And by the way, putting goals also decrease the impact of the biggest competitor of education industry. The biggest competitor, according to me, of the education industry is environment. When there is no goal, the school of environmental factors have a great impact on learner, more impact on learner. When the learner has a goal, environmental factors don't give a big effect on learners. I want to give one example and close this part. I had written a book around 12 years ago, and it was translated to English. And for the English version of the book, Balboa Publications wanted to put some testimonials from different countries. And I wanted these testimonials from my friends. I remember, and I was reading these testimonials in the breakfast on Sunday breakfast with my daughters, with my wife, etc., and reading these testimonials and making comments. One of the testimonial came from Luxembourg. One of my friends who was chairing an venture fund in Luxembourg, and she said, "By Bars, is a good example of American dream. It shows that American dream is not only in the United States, but you can find samples of it around the world. This is what she wrote. I mean, this is what she's thinking. Fine, this is this is her thought. And my daughter said she was studying at the high school. She was 16 years old. Father, don't put this testimonial to your book. I said, why? What is wrong here? She is mentioning about the American dream, and American dream is not something good, she says. Okay, until that point, it seems there is no problem. A young individual is thinking like this. But the interesting thing is, my daughter, who said American dream is something bad, was born at the American hospital. She was one of the most hardworking students of the American college. She was studying at the American college. On the walls, over the piano, my photos with Obama, Biden, McCain, they are all there, by the way. And my book is translated to American English by an American publication house. And this is what she said. What I mean is, when individuals don't have goals, even she was born in the American hospital, American college, whatever, the goal is changing everything, and awareness, as a matter of fact, affected her vision looking at the world. So I think WBAF Business School is, as a matter of fact, carrying a big mission by putting some goals for people and becoming a bridge between these goals through the business school. So this is what I wanted to say, and I'm sure our school is going to create a good effect and decrease the impact of environment over the people. Thank you.
Israel, can I add a few sentences to what Baybars has said?
Yes, of course, Mr. Sembe. I will ask you to be brief because I do want to have a space to make a question that actually the audience wants to ask you.
Very briefly, this school will also give ethics vision and ethics awareness for their participants. And personally, I will be teaching 2 ethics courses. One is called Ethical Governance for Global Institutions, and the other will be Qualified Ethics and Compliance Executive Certification Program. Ethics really will be the important, let's say, concept in the future of business. And many businessmen now are realizing how important it is to be successful in long term. So we should learn the concept of ethics. And I agree to Baybars that we should be giving vision and awareness of what they need, what the participants need in their future lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Sembe, for that compliment. Great points there. Ethics, always a paramount and a must in human qualities. And very quickly, let's go for the first question. I will direct it to Professor Rudy Arno. From Wasim Jargas, many corporations and countries are still not recognizing certificates and degrees earned from online institutions. Any actions to mitigate this challenge and solidify the quality and recognition of reputed online institutions?
Well, this comes a bit back to the question which was being raised by Minister Gonzalez. I think it's good to have this ranking and see that you have these big universities who are all fighting to get the rankings, the British and the Americans. I think it's very good, and people want to go there. It's good. Let's do it. What's happening in the World Business Angel Investment Forum University is on top of that. And I think the recognition, in my view, I don't know what you're considering, but recognition will be by the market. If I come back from such a college and I know what it means to make an evaluation of a company and to make my shareholders agreement, well, this is the reality. So I'm not sure that at the short term, the certification for this case is the most important. The most important will be the recognition by the industry. And if you see who is involved around the table, how many investors that are involved, I think that recognition will come at short term by the market.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Next question is going to be for my friend, Mr. Bulensenba. What are future expectations for business ethics development, direction forward?
It's a very good question. My personal view is that business is really learning what is right, what is wrong, what is fair, what is unfair. And they are recognizing that short-term success is no more important in business life. Sustainability is very important in business life. Long-term success is very important in business life. Therefore, they are aware of the fact that always doing the right things, always doing the fair things, in other words, acting ethically will always win in the business market. And therefore, they are also aware of the fact that in today's communication digital environment, you can never hide anything. You know, in just 1 minute, whatever wrong you do, you know, all the people in the world everywhere will immediately learn what you have done wrong, and immediately they will react to it. So therefore, more importance is given to doing certain things in a right way, not the wrong way, because the invoice for doing something wrong will be a high value for the company.
Great answer. Thank you, Mr. Senber. And thank you to Ivan Jovicic for that question. Something very quickly I have always said and maintain as one of my ethics is that angel investment is not about money, it's about human values and ethics. And I think we all coincide as to why we are part of WBAF. I have a question now for our dear friend Hans, and I think this will be an amazing question for you given your background. And this comes from Funsa Diani. The issue of broadband has been a hindrance to effective deployment of digital education, and there seems not to be progress on creative models for investment in broadband. What can be done to accelerate addressing this issue in order to break barriers to access to digital education? You're on mute.
I saw it. Thanks for the question. I don't have the global answer for this, but one of the best practices I've seen was actually in the province of Johannesburg in South Africa, in which the CIO responsible for supporting the Department for Education decided to bring all of their educational courses to the cloud and enable access for that using a 5G distribution networks instead of using broadband, using 5G. You could argue, is that possible in a country like South Africa? And it has been done. So I understand that in some parts of the world, this is really challenging, but there's definitely examples of countries such as South Africa that have taken the right combination of technologies in order to address this.
Thank you. Perhaps with that, I will take one question for dear Chairman Babers, which I think this has been addressed to WBAF, and is from Brittany Lick. Education and entrepreneurship operate in the digital space, and both require access to smart devices. 39% of the world population still does not have access to smart devices. How does this lack of access contribute to the perpetuation of inequalities in education and entrepreneurship? And how will WBAF help to close these gaps, especially for underserved countries? Over to you, dear Chairman.
As you know, I am sitting in the board of Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion of G20. And this board is chaired by Queen Maxima of the Netherlands. And it will be good to send the Saudi Arabia's presidency's report, which included WBAF activities, what we did in pandemic times. And this report included what WBAF, what World Bank, what Islamic Development Bank, what the chambers of they did. What we can do and what we try to do while attempting to find some solutions for this issue, because it is an important issue, we worded the importance of, we echoed the importance of digital inclusion more than digital financial inclusion, because digital inclusion now comes first. It is very clear, and I completely agree with the person who asked this question. If governments, if public money doesn't support the digital infrastructure more, if they don't invest in maybe in cooperation with telecom companies, or I mean the fiber companies, and also maybe sponsor more laptops, digital tools for young people, I think the contribution of schools, educational institutions like WBA Business School will be limited. At the end of the day, WBAF is trying to echo the importance of digital inclusion at the G20 level. This is what we are doing. And WBA Business School is trying to put quality in the, as Mr. Shenver mentioned, what is inside, what is the content, what is inside in the digitalization we present. So quality, yes, it is our responsibility, but the digitalization in structure, I think it will be the main responsibility of governments, of public sector to support the private sector. So this is how we are going to make a collaboration. So in the beginning of the ceremony, I worded the importance of public-private partnership (PPP) projects' importance for pandemic, for post-pandemic times.
Great, thank you very much, dear Babers. I'm really sorry that we can't get through all your questions. It's amazing the response that we have had. Thank you everybody for being so involved into this panel. We do appreciate it. I will very quickly ask my guests that is still online, Professor Ruby, Hans, Mr. Bullen-Senver, please just give us a couple of lines to close our panel. And very quickly, and with that, when you finish, we will hand back to my dearest friend, Secretary General Kevin Hinn, please. We start with you, Rudy.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I think the last three questions, it's about the bottleneck of the infrastructure. And indeed, if you see broadband, 50% of the world has broadband, 50% has not. So it means you exclude half of the world. So indeed, you should do something on investment. If you speak about the devices, it's true. If I speak about last question, I said in the beginning, I was Secretary General of 1 laptop per child. We put a couple of million laptops. For them, you must know the $100 laptop, we called it. We never got that because it always costed 200, but anyway. So if you see, we have done a couple of millions financed by corporates, by banks, by companies, by telecom. So going back to what Baybar said, I think perhaps it would be the next big initiative to set up this private-public partnership because I think we can change the world, and perhaps today we have a momentum. Crisis means taking opportunities. So let's be entrepreneurial. I think we have a momentum to look at all those questions. So let's be very ambitious and let's put goals by Bars.
Hans, over to you, please.
Yeah, my ambition would be to teach our students to create the plans that are not too good to be true. And on the other hand, to make sure that whatever they come up with is not good enough. To strike that balance, in collaboration with us, but also with their fellow students, because that I think is also one of the big advantages that we're putting on the mat here. This international digital connection between people working on cases, really understanding different cultures and different maturity levels, that's going to make a huge difference.
Thank you. And finally, but not least, Mr. Boulen-Senver.
To conclude, in order to be successful in future, all institutions need to implement an effective digital transformation in educational services, like the banking sector, which already invested in financial digital technology and will continue to invest in future. Governments, private sector, universities, and other educational institutions should speed up the investments made to digital education. Creating a strong digital education is necessary to educate the new young generation for a better economy in future.
Thank you. Over to you, Kevin.
Super. Well, thank you so much to all the panelists, first of all, for your wonderful insights and really consolidating all the keynote speeches we had earlier to be able to give a really comprehensive overview of the WBAF Business School. And thank you also to Israel for the great moderation of this roundtable. It's been really great. And also I'd like to thank all of the audience members who were asking questions, like my inbox kept buzzing the whole time. With all your interaction, and it shows that there's lots of space for more engagement in the future as well. Hopefully also at the World Congress in a couple of weeks, in a few weeks' time, to be able to exchange even more on the business school and answer even more questions. But this being said, this session time's been flying, but this session has already lasted for over 3 hours. So I would like to now hand the floor to the rector of the WBAF Business School, Dr. Paul Douani, for his closing remarks before we close this session.
Thanks, Kevin. I deliberately didn't want to use my first 10 minutes because I didn't want to speak twice. And I obviously understand, there's a limit of time. So I would like to say that the old world, let's say, is the physical world. If we assume that the future is a digital world, which means you don't need to have a physical, necessarily, facility in itself. The old world of physical facilities like education facilities or places of work, by definition, are restrictive by means of access, which is physical. By definition, are elitist. The people who are perhaps more capable than others and definitely have higher affordability, not necessarily on equity basis. If you're living in a country and you're not living in the capital city, and perhaps the best university tends to be in the capital city or the largest city of that country, not only you have to physically move to that location, you have transport costs, you have accommodation costs, etc. So that adds a burden of cost, which again, therefore, by definition, means what? Only people who can afford will be able to get it. So the old world, by definition, couldn't provide equity. Okay? Now, the new world has the possibility of doing it. Now, the technological restrictions that we have been working on since I come from the communication world has gone through, technological challenges in relation to meeting the connectivity requirement per person, which by definition cannot be restricted to a location, because that person is not staying in the same place all the time, and therefore it requires fixed coverage and mobile coverage. And the second aspect of that is, what is that bandwidth requirement per person? What is the consumption in data that they need, the gigabytes that they need? And that number keeps going up. And luckily, more can be done. A third leg of that is latency. If you're doing stuff together collaboratively, etc., then you can't have very high latency, which is the delay factor. And all this technology took time for it to be developed and distributed, installed. And if you take it down to the affordability level of the lowest income person in the country that you're in, that measure of cost means that that person should get sufficient connectivity. I have been speaking about this in my career for a very long time to very few people who could understand what I'm saying. Because what happens is that if you have 10 megabit per second and you want 20, the cost of providing that to those customers is at the expense of the ones who have no connection. The second part is the physical connection, which means basically cable infrastructure or fiber infrastructure is by its very nature limited. Satellite technologies that have been attempted earlier, after all, some of you may be old enough to have heard of Internet in the Sky project, started by no less than very big people in the world today who have a lot of money and were not short of vision. But it failed. It failed technologically. Now we are on the verge of total coverage with real bandwidth, which is not small. And that means that the global access is now definitely possible within years, and it's affordable. That level of connectivity is finally approaching, okay? Then we come to the processing part, which means, devices. Smartphones are very, very cheap. I never believed that in my lifetime, technology would develop to this level. And let me tell you that this is why I am actually optimistic that a person of very limited income can use a smartphone which is sufficient for them to spend time to improve themselves. They don't need a lot of bandwidth. They don't. They need time and diligence. And that is what I referred to in the beginning, not working from anywhere only, but learning from anywhere. I think most of you know that you can learn from what is available to you. If in the old times there was a physical book, and that wasn't that long ago, and right now, with sufficient bandwidth, you can learn a hell of a lot from a screen only this size, okay? Which is, after all, what you're using all day. You got used to it. So I'm optimistic that the technology, the business models of providing this connectivity with sufficiency, okay? I'm not talking about the ones that are never satisfied with whatever you give them, right? Because obviously, if you're a business and you have to have, like very, very low latency and so on, yeah, so you just provide it point to point, you see? You do it in one location. That's why 5G, for example, will by definition be spotty, coverage to the people who can afford it, and they should contribute to the people who cannot, which is the definition of universal service. So the exciting thing about the future of the world is that finally, every single person who has potential will be able somehow to afford to have a shot at it. Now, this is not about building startups and angel investors and so on, right? Because that constitutes a very small percentage of people. And many of those are going to fail. So those people who do that, we are telling them, lower your cost of failure by investing in yourself, right? So learn what you need to learn about. I was discussing with Baibars recently when this pandemic happened, and I discovered, in fact, that despite all the years of work and learning that I have spent, I graduated 1981. And if you discard the first 10 years of my working life, I have studied on average at least 2 hours a day of every single day, because I had to. And if I missed one day, I'll make it up in the weekend. And came this pandemic, and I was telling to Baibars, I have some time now, and I feel so weak on macroeconomics, and especially with this pandemic, I want to learn. And I've been looking around for online courses at that time, and I couldn't find anything, satisfactory to me. And I ended up having to just learn it myself. Let me tell you, 90% of what I did, was on a mobile phone. Some of it was on the computer. I didn't need more than that. I don't have very much bandwidth where I am. And it's doable. I'm talking about access now, access. What I did could have been done by anybody, frankly, living even in a village in this country, or at least in a town, okay? So the question is simple, really, and it's doable. Now, all companies doing what they're doing now, they will not be able to do it, what they did in the last 5 years, next 5 years, let's say roughly. They can't. Maybe 10 years ago, what you did 10 years before, you could do it 10 years again. Now, we know that you can't. Now, companies have to transform. They need to do it. They need to invest in their people to do it. And you're not going to get this thing from a conventional education center. Primary education is provided by institutions that exist. This business school is not in competition with that market. This business school is, in fact, going to be accessible to any person, affordable, and will be recognized. And I think, earlier faculty members have indicated the issue of certification and so on. In fact, I fully agree that that is not relevant to what this business school provides. It is recognition of that this quality of people who are trying to help. They're trying to help. And they've done it before. And this is not a conventional form of teaching. Every person here maybe have taught before, but the most important thing they've done is by working. And they've learned it the hard way. So what excites me actually about going forward and what this business school can do is that this pandemic, unfortunately, what it has done is a very bad effect on economies and so on. And let's be practical. You're talking about connectivity. Governments are struggling now with stuff that is a lot harder. Okay, so the funding models for these things, and I spend a lot of time in my life as to how this can be done, okay, isn't even the mission of this school. Okay, but since I have been working on this and I know the subject very well, there's no harm. We can certainly help governments plan it. We can help operators plan it. We can help businesses, as some earlier faculty have explained to you, that if you're a business and you have to transform yourself, business transformation, if you're an SME, maybe you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, do it differently. Transformation. If you're a scale-up company, you're scaling up, you may need to transform, because if you're already a startup, you may need to transform 3-4 years into your life. Now, that is why every person and every company and every investor even need to invest in themselves. Now you have a bit more time than you did before, which is at least your commuting time, number one, right? But remember, please, always, there are people who have to commute. Somehow, the notion of people like us who may be able to work without commuting is very insulting to the people who have to commute. So I always remind people about that, okay? Maybe we are 30, 40% max, by the way, but in most markets, we are around a quarter of the people who have this privilege that we are able to do what we do with much less movement, but the others need to move. Now, this is the part that I find promising after this difficult pandemic, is the fact that finally the technology has managed to reach to an affordable level of access by sufficient bandwidth, please, sufficient, because it's money. And if you have excess, then give to the one who needs, not to the one who wants to get more than they need. You see, it always comes at the expense then of the one who doesn't have it. The second thing are the access devices. Okay, that's broken. The next one, and some of the faculty members have mentioned the famous $100, all of us have been through those, $100 computers. They ended up costing more and all that stuff. Okay, but how many of us need processing? I mean, processing devices. The number isn't that high. This definitely requires work, okay? But it's promising, okay? It's still a lower cost than we expected. So access and at least learning of a screen this size and maybe a cheap type of a notepad or a whatever you want to call them, notepad, whatever they are, kind of devices, even those in Turkey, for example, they can be bought for $150, etc. So it's not like the end of the world and they can be shared. You can also buy them secondhand. That's the reason why, unfortunately, it took a pandemic to start with to say, you can work from anywhere, please. And if you can work from anywhere, you definitely can study from anywhere. And that is the mission of this business school. Thanks to you.
Thank you so much for these inspiring closing remarks, Dr. Douani, as the Rector of the WBAF Business School. And it indeed shows the massive potential of what we have achieved so far and what we will achieve over the next few months, thanks to the great work undertaken, which I believe has been clearly seen through this grand opening ceremony for the last few hours. And before I hand the floor to Executive Chairman Baybars for his farewell remarks and to close this session, I would like to once again thank everybody for all the honored keynote speakers, the presidents and ministers who spoke earlier, and all the panelists and WBAF faculty who've just made this session so alive, and for the great work undertaken, and also for the honor of inviting me to moderate the session. It's been a great learning experience for me too, to be able to listen to all your wonderful expert thoughts, which I will certainly bring in to my activities as well moving forward too. On this note, I would like to wish everybody a wonderful end to the year and a wonderful evening, and I hand over to Chairman Baybars for his closing remarks. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, dear Kevin. I think you made a great job, and I am really happy to see that you didn't leave the stage until that time, because it is more than 3 hours. I think it will be good for us to consider while organizing such kind of events with 2 moderators. Thank you very much, Kevin, for your efforts. Thanks so much. Just a few words. Dr. Douani wrapped up everything very well, and I was not surprised with his performance in the closing remarks, because as a matter of fact, since the beginning of the WBAF Business School, why we were together, because we shared many things on the same page together. That was very interesting, because he managed big companies, and He's coming from the field and he knows what the industries, what economies, and what individuals need very well. And I'm coming from education industry, and we could bring these two concepts together. Before saying goodbye and saying Happy New Year to everybody and taking one by one to all participants of today, I want to address to entrepreneurs with a few words. Entrepreneurs, you know, have to prepare their business plans to proceed with their business ventures, with their business ideas. And these business plans include some keywords: innovation, entrepreneurship, startup, exit, revenue, etc., etc., etc. But now, I think in post-pandemic times, more important than the business plan will be, by the way, the idea came from Dr. Donay, business transformation plan. It will be more important than the business plan for entrepreneurs, for investors, and for institutions. I think investors will start questioning about business transformation plans of invested companies more in post-pandemic times. How they are positioning innovation, how they are positioning ethics, how they are positioning innovation in their business plans, in business transformation plans will be very, very important. And Kevin mentioned about the Casablanca cafe of the Casablanca cafe part of the WBAF cafe in his opening speech. We wanted to name a part of WBAF cafe as Rick's Cafe of the Casablanca film. Maybe you watched or not, but this is an old film filmed in the around the Second World War times. Ingrid Bergman, etc. They played in the film, and in the Second World War, Rick's Cafe in Casablanca was a place for people who are looking for a better future. They were coming together, and they were taking the first flight from Casablanca, because Casablanca was the only city to Portugal, then flying to other countries, to the United States mainly. So I think Mr. COVID gave more damage to world economy than the Second World War. Trillions of dollars of damage. And so we said, why not to invite everybody from around the world to WBAF Cafe for only one thing: sharing experience, discussing the problems, and bringing some insights from different parts of the world. This is going to foster acquisition process in addition to learning. Is it important? It is very important, because when you learn something, you may forget it if you don't repeat it. But when you acquire something, you don't forget it. And acquisition doesn't come from teachings, from reading, from exams, from course content, etc. Acquisition best comes from experience, from people, from their one-to-one communication. So WBA Business School will also be a platform, not only for learning, but for also acquisition. So we are trying to position WBAF, the business school, as a convergence platform of everybody from every industries to share their experiences, know-hows, mentorship, networking. And it is a great pleasure for me to become a member of this institution. And dear Dr. Donay, thank you very much for your efforts. Dear Professor Arnaud, thank you very much for your efforts. Dear Fabrice, as the Secretary General of the school, thank you very much. Dear Hans, thank you very much for your efforts. Hans always highlights the importance of education, not only for individuals, but also for institutions, for corporates too. I think it is also very, very important. And WBAF Business School will address not only to individual learners, but also to institutional learners. It is very important. Thank you very much, Hans. Dear Fadi, thank you very much for establishing the corporate support, corporate governance and SME support center. This center will become a key player in the world. This is what I believe, because our participants will like to make intern all over the world. And it will be good to support industries, companies, by connecting them and presenting them the best talents of the world through WBAF Business School. Thank you very much for establishing this center. And dear Shenver Bülent Bey, thank you very much for your vision. Ethics will be definitely very important in the business transformation plans of invested companies, especially. Ethics, business ethics is something affecting the company valuations directly. It is very important. No ethics, no company valuation. It is very, the maths is very simple. Thank you very much again. Thank you very much for your contributions, not only as the faculty member, but also as the president of the WBAF Angel Investment Fund. Congratulations for your announcement a few weeks ago for an investment into a Spanish startup in agriculture industry. And this is a good sample that investment doesn't stop even in pandemic times. Thank you very much for your efforts. Professor Bayrami, thank you very much for joining us. And I liked how you connected university and Silicon Valley and brought them into same picture. This is what I'm going to use in my speech in the future. Thank you very much. Really, it was a good example, and all the best to your ministry and to your students at the university too. Thank you very much. And dear Kevin, again, you are a multi-skilled person. You are the board member of Ban Ki-moon Center in Vienna, and you are in the board of ICC, International Chamber of Commerce, and you are the Secretary General of JCI with 200,000 members. I think you will be very instrumental in carrying the mission of WBAF Business School globally. Thank you very much for your support. Dear friends, dear Rector, dear faculty members, dear Minister, and dear audience, dear guests, dear media members, Happy New Year and see you next year. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Israel, see you.